Hey guys, it's Smudge here, and we're back in the Sabre again. Tonight, what I want to do is practice some air-to-ground, employing the aircraft against tanks and static ground targets using bombs and rockets. I've been practicing it through the day today. I've been having a bit of mixed results with it, although I am starting to become a bit more efficient. I actually managed to spend a bit of time to read the quick start manual, and there's some good information there on how to use the bombs and rockets and guns in an air to ground role as well as an air to air role. So I thought I'd make a quick video just showing how to employ the Sabre in an air to ground role. Now, it's about 9:30 at night here in the UK. It's 24.5 degrees, which is pretty damn hot. 24 degrees Celsius, I should say there. And my track clip broke on my track IR, which isn't very clever. So I've had to revert to using the track hat, which is making me sweat profusely. So if I pass out while making this video and all of a sudden you see the camera fall down like that, then you know why. It's because I've simply been dehydrated and over exhausted through heat. So let's see if we can get this video underway before I pass out from heat exhaustion. So we're sat here in the cockpit again. Now this is just a standard training range that I use kind of all the time. I've just got the aircraft loaded up here as stock with a couple of fuel tanks, so what we'll need to do is get the aircraft armed up as well. Now I just wanted to go over a couple of things in the cockpit first, just to kind of point out exactly what I'll be doing while I'm in the air, because with my limited brain capacity I might forget what I'm actually doing at the time. So the actual weapon selector switch, if I can get my tracker to look down there, is just here. It's this thing. And this talks to the gun sight, and it changes its mode. So you've got a little rocker switch on the bottom here, which I'm just moving there, which can move from rocket to gun to bombs. And what that does is that it changes the reticle here in order to track for the guns, the rockets, or the bombs, which is really very clever. So I'll just turn that back to guns for now. And on the top, on the rotary switch here, you've got your rocket depression angle. If I can just move that around there. And what you can use that for is to tell the sight at what angle you're going to be attacking using rockets. And as you can see, it goes from 0 through to about 50 degrees there. So apparently the optimal angle for rocket attacks is about 30 degrees. That's what I've got set to there. And also, if we can't really see it here, my tracker has been playing up with this track hat. We do have some angle of attack indicators on the canopy. You can just see them there. And I'll just give a quick demonstration once we're airborne on how to measure your angle of descent using not only the angle of attack indicator and artificial horizon, but also the cockpit glass markers. Now, in order to arm the rockets, I found it to be a bit of a pain in the backside. To arm the rockets, you've got to lift this switch, and then there's a tiny little switch under there, which I've just moved down there. That arms the rocket, so I'll just switch it off there for now. And then just below that here, you've got the bomb armament switch, which is here at the moment. That's off. You've got on the left, arm all, or arm right. So I'll just leave that switched off for the time being. Left of it here, you've got what I guess you could call the CCIP or CCRP mode. It's auto release, which is like a computer controlled release, and what it's set to now is manual release. So when you press the weapons release button, that drops the bombs as soon as you press the button. Then you've got the fuse delay here, which causes the bombs to hit the ground and wait a second before they explode, which is I suppose it's handy for any kind of armor or ground penetration. And that's most of the weapon selection panel down here. So what we'll do is that we'll get the aircraft armed up, and then we'll get started, get airborne, and see if we can't hit the broadside of a barn, which is, trust me, it takes a little bit of getting used to, and there's quite a lot to kind of go through once we're in the air and doing that. So what I'll do first, I'll just request some ground power.
Turn on the ground power. Copy.
Okay, so we'll start bringing the aircraft to life, and while I'm starting doing the
Ground power is now on.
I'll just get the ground crew to rearm the aircraft here. Now, this is the rearmament screen from on the ground. So we'll just pop some rockets on here. Now, one thing to note, if you're carrying anything in hardpoint 7, like fuel tanks or bombs, you can't arm, and I'll just demonstrate this here, hardpoint 8. 6 and 7 are for carrying the GAR-8 air-to-air missile, which we're not going to be using today. So we'll just save a little weight, but I'll just load these up here just to demonstrate what I mean. So we'll just arm up with rockets there. Fuel's okay. Now that's our total weight, which is 17,129 pounds. Our maximum permissible takeoff weight is 20,612 pounds. So we're well below the minimum, or sorry, the maximum takeoff weight. So we're pretty safe there. So we're doing okay. So we'll just
Request
hit OK on
rearming.
that.
Copy.
So that should start the ground crew rearming the aircraft here. What they'll do is that they'll take off the fuel tanks, which are just located down the side here, and then put the bombs on and the rockets. So while they're doing that, we'll just go through our other few pre-flight checks here just to make sure that everything's kind of set as it needs to be, and then we'll bring the aircraft to life. Also, just one thing to note here, you've got a rocket to be fired switch down here, and then by selecting this, my tracker playing up again there, you can select which hard points gets fired first out of all of the rockets that you carry. So we'll just leave that set to 1, which will then fire off the first rocket that you can just see has been loaded down there. So if we go to externals, like I was saying, even though we armed all of the hard points, it's only loaded 4 of the hard points and the 2 bomb hard points. The ones that's closest to the bomb hard points, the rocket hard points, they don't get loaded if there is a bomb or a drop tank loaded. I guess it's something to do with an overlap or something like that possibly, but if you're carrying bombs, you can only carry a maximum of 4 sets of rockets. So we'll just bring the aircraft to life here. Switch some lights on there. So we'll move the starter down to start and then back up the battery. Just wait for the RPM here to settle above 3% and then move the throttle into the first indent. And then as we can see there, that's starting up nicely, so that's above 6% now, so we'll just bring the throttle up into idle. And then that should start the turbines. Just turn that off for now. On this. Okey-dokey. And that's the engine started and idling nicely, so we'll just hold the brakes down here and just advance the throttle up. Now, one thing to note, that if you're below 45%, then the aircraft doesn't actually power itself. At the moment we're still attached to ground power, which is why the lights are staying on there, but if we ask the crew chiefs to turn off the ground power before we pull off.
Turn off the ground power. Copy.
So at the moment we're about 45% throttle, which means that the
Ground power is now
engine
off.
is still powering the aircraft. But if we actually throttle this down, there you go, we've got a warning light on there saying that the radar inverters are off because they're not getting enough power. So that's one thing to also note, that when you're in the air, that if you pull your throttle back too much, it can have adverse effects on some of the systems inside the aircraft. So we'll just close up the canopy here, tuck that down, and now that that's closed, you can better see the angle of attack indicators here that I was on about earlier. So we'll just release the toe brakes here, power up a little bit, hold down the nose wheel steering key, and then we'll just ease ourselves out of the hangar here and then start taxiing towards the runway. Again, as I've said in previous videos, the nose wheel steering is very sensitive on this, so you need to turn early and stop turning it early, otherwise you'll have plenty of mishaps on the ground. Just check the lipstick. Yep, looking okay. Just on the way out there. Also, another thing to note here, if you see just below the gun sight there, you got this marker here. This is to do with gun sight reticle width, so you can do it like that, and you can use that for ranging aircraft. Oops, just turning in a little late here. We'll do okay there. For ranging aircraft in the air, so if you're aiming manually, you can say, if you know that the wingspan of a Sabre is 40 feet, you set that to 40. And then when they're in range, so the range there is set to about 60 meters, I believe. When the wingspan takes up the full gun sight, then you know that they're in at the right range. Now, for air-to-ground gunnery, if you set that to 60, apparently those pippers are at 10 millimeters, which apparently assists in the air-to-ground gunnery. So that's just one thing to note. So I'll just bring this to a stop here. Turn on the pedal heat. Start advancing the throttle up here a little bit. Release the brakes, and here we go. And just advancing the throttle nice and smoothly up to 100%. So we're at the track IR axis. So we're rolling a bit slower this time. We're having all of these bombs and rockets strapped onto us, so we'll take off here just a little bit later. There we go. Just control the roll here a bit. So we'll just clean up the aircraft and then control the sync rate as the flaps and the gear are coming up. That's the seat sinking down into a nice position where we can actually view the gun sight there. Just control our rate of ascent. Just turn the lights off. Now we're just taking off from Cobuletti, and you can just see the training range in a distance just off to our left there. So I'll just trim out the aircraft here, and what we're going to do is see if we can't do a bomb run first. The bombs are pretty heavy, so I want to get them off the aircraft first. See them there to create plenty of drag. So we'll just start climbing up here. So we'll just we'll just climb up to about 10,000 feet here, and then that gives us plenty of altitude in order to go through how to employ the bombs. I'm just turning away from target here while I climb. And just control our rate of ascent, keeping about 200 knots. It's not best climb speed, but it'll do the job. So what I'm going to do while we're climbing out here is just set up the bombs. So I want to drop the left bomb first. I've set it to automatic released first, and I'll set the bomb sight to bomb. As you can see, the gun sight's caged at the moment. But if we uncage the gun sight using that, then the reticle drops down there into a bomb aiming mode. If we move this back into guns, you see that the pipper has gone back up there into a better gun aiming position. So climbing up nicely here, we're just passing about 8,000, so we'll start turning back towards target, and then we'll have our first pass, and we'll try an auto or an CCRP type bomb release. Now the reason that we climbed up is that in order to become more in bombs release, you kind of need to be above the target in about a 45-degree bank in order to be as accurate as possible. Using CCRP, I found that it doesn't like long shallow bank approaches. It will always drop the bomb early. So we'll just throttle back here a bit, just to give us a bit more time on the ingress, and just trim the aircraft out. So now the sequence is, we've got everything set up as it needs to be. We've got the gun sight set to bomb, auto release, and we've armed the left hand side bomb. Now there's a button on the throttle here which I've got set up on my HOTAS to cage or electronically cage the gun sight. Now in order to do an automatic release, what you need to do is hold down the cage gun sight button. You then need to hold down the bomb release button, then release the gun sight caging indicator while keeping the bomb release button pressed, and then once the computer determines that you're going to achieve a score or a hit on target, it'll then release the bomb. And that's how CCRP works. It's a little bit complex, but it does work. I've managed to score, you know, within a decent proximity of the target. I wouldn't say I'm overly accurate with it. There is quite a degree of separation between the aim point and the bomb on the release. I suppose it's maybe just me not being smooth in the dive or anything like this. So what I'm going to do is just pull out the brakes here, just see those coming out, and then start my descent onto target. Now what I'm going to aim for is the command bunker in the centre there. So I want to get my pipper over there. I'm holding down the gun sight cage key, so I'll get my pipper as close to that as I can. I'll hold down the weapon release key while trying to keep that on target, and then I'm going to release the cage gun sight, and that's the bomb gone. So we'll just pull up here, and then we're going to go into bomb view, direct hit, bang on target. Fantastic. And that's how CCRP works, or computer controlled release point, and that's using the aiming or the aiming computer in order to predict where your bombs are going to hit. Now I know it is a pretty big target, but we did hit that slap bang in the middle, and that's a pretty successful drop. So I'm just going to pull in my brakes here, which I forgot to do on the way up there because I was too busy looking at the bomb there. So we'll just gain a little bit more altitude. What I'm going to do is set this into auto release on the right hand bomb. So we'll set that to right and then back to manual release. And then what we do this time is that again we cage the gun sight on the way in, release the cage, but you don't press the weapons release key until the gun sight flashes. You'll see that the pip on the gun sight there will actually disappear. When it disappears, that's your cue to release the bomb, and only then do you press the weapons release key, and then hopefully, if everything's gone right, you'll hit the target again. So we'll just gain a little bit of altitude and a little bit of distance here, and then we'll set ourselves up for another bomb pass on the command bunker there in the middle of the target area. So we're just climbing up nice and healthily here. We'll just get back up to about 10,000 feet. It just gives us enough time to get the bomb aiming kind of where we need it to be before we release the bomb. Also, actually, I've got a little bit of altitude to play with here. So with these markers, if you're looking across here, as long as your wings are level, which mine are thereabouts, don't forget I've still got a bomb hanging off one of the hard points here, so it's dragging the aircraft a little bit. If you just nose over, just pull back on the throttle while I do here with your wings level, you see that once the horizon matches, so I'm just wobbling a little bit here, the line's there, so if we line that up, that's us at about 30 degrees there, and that's how you use the aiming or the guides on the canopy there, the diving angle guides. Alternatively, you can use the artificial horizon here. You just push that down till it says 3. Now you do have labs, which is the low altitude bombing system. I'm not too confident in using that yet, but what you use this for primarily is lobbing bombs. So you come in hard and fast, low to the ground, you set up your target engagement, you start the labs, You then pitch up, keeping the roll centered, holding down the bomb release key, and then when the computer thinks that you've got enough angle of attack, it'll then release the bomb, which will then arc it up and over and hopefully come down somewhere near the target. Now, I've not had much success with it, with I guess the 500-pound bombs possibly on this, but that was primarily used for actually lobbing nuclear ordnance from the F-86. And what they do, they come in low and fast trying to beat enemy air defense. They lob up or pitch up as they're approaching the target, lob the bomb, they then do a reverse turn and escape at maximum speed, so that they can be outside of the lethal range of the nuclear blast when the thing goes off. So that's what the lab system's for, but I have found it's not terribly accurate for small dumbfire weapons like what we're using here, so we'll just stick to dive bombing and see if we can't hit this target again. So we should be just about there, ready to pitch over now, so I'm just going to pull back on the throttle, open up the brakes, just ready for the dive. So I'm going to pitch over, I'm holding the cage key down. We're going to find our target. Oops, don't want to pull the throttle into absolute minimum, otherwise, like I've mentioned before we took off, you lose the ability to use a computer. So I've got the pipper over there, so I've just uncaged the gun sight. We'll try and keep that as close to target as possible. Wait for the gun sight to disappear, which it hopefully will. There it goes. Bomb gone. And then we'll just pitch up again here, and then we'll see if we hit the target. Not as accurate that time, but you know, we're kind of in the same ballpark. Not a direct hit like it was using the computer, but it wasn't a million miles away either. So, you know, if you're bombing a vehicle convoy or a large group of targets, then you know you can have some success with that. But again, you know, it would have been nicer if that got a bit closer. So we'll just retrim the aircraft here, considering that we've just lost 500 pounds off one of the wings. Got it trimmed up, flying nice and straight here, and then what we'll do is that we'll set the gun computer to rocket here, and you just see that that's lowered the chair down again, so that we can see better through the gun sight. We'll disarm the bombing system and engage the rockets. So now when we hit the weapon release key, that should then fire one of the many rockets, or several of the many rockets that we have strapped underneath the wing there. So the optimal approach for a rocket attack is from about 8,000 feet with a 30-degree bank. Now they are fairly inaccurate. They are unguided dumbfire rockets, so they're not very accurate, and they do lose altitude very quickly. So it's just something to be very aware of. So we'll just pull ourselves in. I know that on the closest end of the runway there on this side we have a bunch of soft targets and trucks. So I'm just going to set myself up here. And then what we're going to do is see if we can't attack some of the trucks that are on this side of the runway. So I'm just retrimming the aircraft here as we're gaining more airspeed. Just still climbing a little bit here, so we'll just see if we can't control our descent a bit. We don't want to be too high. Just pulling back on the throttle here so that we don't gain too much airspeed in the dive. That's us just below 8,000, so we'll just level off here and then start turning around to make a rocket attack on the targets. And hopefully we'll have some success with this. So here we go. We're about 8,000. So we'll just start a shallow descent on target here. Now again, same as with the bomb run, it's best to hold down the cage weapon key, hover the gun sight over target, release the cage weapon key, and then after a second or so it should be predicting whereabouts your weapons are going to land. So we'll just aim for some of these trucks here, hold down the weapon cage key, just release that there, and then hopefully we'll be able to score some hits here. A couple of hits there, not the greatest, but it's cleared off all of our rockets. But that's basically how a rocket attack should work. We've got a couple of targets there. Again, could have been better, could have been worse. We've got them within the ballpark, and that's the main thing. So the last thing to go over is gun passes. Now, as you can see, we've got the range indicator here set to 60, which means that each one of these spaces is 10 millimeters, and that's supposedly supposed to help in ground strafing. But according to the quick start manual, the best thing to do is to aim at your target, fire a quick burst, correct your point of aim, and then fire a sustained burst in order to kill the enemy. That's kind of what it states in the manual. So we'll just head inbound here, and then we'll see if we can't kill some more of these trucks in a single pass. So we'll just line up here to give us a bit of a better approach. Again, just throttling back here so I'm not overspeeding. Pop the brakes out. And we'll aim for this right hand corner here. So we'll just give the guns a quick squirt. And then correct. And then just feed some of the trucks with some tracers. And I think that we may have got one or two there. Not the most accurate run. Just throttle up, we'll climb up, wait, one will pass, and then we'll head for home. So we'll just pull some G's here and turn back on target. Come in again for a pass down these trucks. Diagonal pass, see if we can't get a few on the way through here. Quick sky, you'll see that'll drop quite a lot. So that's almost towards the bottom aiming reticle there, but just a bit of rudder here, just train those across one of those targets there. Got a couple of targets on that pass, so that's pretty good. And a nice little victory roll. Just a remedy. And that's ground employment on the Sabre. So we'll just head home now and see if we can't have a nice little landing. Like turning brake here. Start bleeding off some airspeed and then set up for a nice approach. Flaps down, and then undercarriage down. So I'm going to start trimming forward, then start controlling airspeed there, about 150 knots for the approach. Just speeding up a little here in the dive, but that's not much to worry about at the moment. Just the inner marker buoy down there. Just level off here and the airspeed should start coming down quite nicely. Just cut off the throttle. And start flaring out for a nice soft touchdown. And then start easing on the toe brakes again here just to start bringing ourselves to a stop. Just looking at the air brakes. The wheel brakes there as we're starting to slow down a bit. Just clean up the aircraft, flaps up and brakes in. And we'll just park in one of these hardened aircraft shelters here. And just cut the throttle back there, switch off the engine master switch, and that's the engine spooling down to bring the aircraft to a dead. And then we just switch off the battery, and then that's us done. And that was the F86 in air to ground. I hope that you've enjoyed the video. If there's anything else that you would like to see, or if there's anything else that you would like to see me to do, or another DCS module that you would like me to see me fly, just please let me know. And until next time, take care.